After the shocking events of the first film, Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson brought Ghostface back for a sequel that was bigger, bloodier, and smarter than anyone expected. From real college chaos to rewrites, leaks, and near disasters, here are 20 weird and surprising facts about Scream 2. Fact 1. In 1997, before social media and Reddit spoilers, Scream 2 made Hollywood history for all the wrong reasons. Its entire script leaked online. Someone in the production chain sent out early drafts, and within days, fans were sharing them across horror forums. The leak included the killer's identity, alternate deaths, and entire pages of dialogue. Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson panicked. They had to rewrite major parts of the script mid-shoot, often handing actors their pages the morning of filming. Craven even shot multiple fake endings to keep the real one a mystery. Some cast members didn't know who the killer was until the final week of production. The chaos worked in the film's favor, though that unpredictable energy made Scream 2 feel dangerous, alive, and impossible to guess. Ironically, a movie about horror fandom and media obsession became a real-life victim of the internet's early spoiler culture. Fact 2. Laurie Metcalf, who played Mrs. Loomis, the vengeful mother of Billy Loomis, was one of the film's best-kept secrets. Her character posed as an ambitious journalist for most of the movie, but no one, not even the full cast, knew she was one of the killers until late in production. Wes Craven wanted her identity to be as shocking as Billy's reveal in the first film. Metcalf played her scenes with subtle menace, always lingering in the background but never drawing too much attention. During the final reveal, her manic performance, equal parts grief and rage, stunned everyone on set. Even Neve Campbell later said she didn't realize how intense Metcalf's energy would be until they filmed that final showdown. Craven described her as a classic Hitchcock villain, someone you'd never expect until it's too late. That twist not only tied Scream 2 to the original, but elevated it, showing that vengeance and legacy are as deadly as the knife itself. Fact 3. Sarah Michelle Gellar was one of the biggest rising stars of the late 90s, thanks to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and I Know What You Did Last Summer. When she joined Scream 2, her schedule was so packed that she had to shoot her entire role, including her elaborate death scene, in less than a week, flying between sets daily. She'd finish fighting vampires on Buffy, hop on a red-eye flight, and then spend all night filming chase scenes at the Omega Beta Zeta sorority house. Despite exhaustion, Gellar brought vulnerability and terror to her character, Cece Cooper, one of the sequel's most memorable kills. Wes Craven admired her professionalism, calling her the hardest-working Scream Queen in Hollywood. Ironically, Gellar's character in Scream 2 dies after running upstairs, a trope Buffy had famously mocked earlier that same year. It's one of those perfect meta-coincidences that made Scream 2 so self-aware and fun to watch. Fact 4. Scream 2 wasn't just a sequel, it was a prophecy. Released in 1997, it openly mocked the idea that sequels are never as good as the original, and then went on to break that rule. Kevin Williamson's script predicted the wave of self-aware horror and legacy sequels that would dominate the 2000s and 2010s. The film constantly references itself, discussing horror tropes while performing them. Characters debate sequel rules, body counts, and audience expectations, turning the story into a movie about making a movie. Critics at the time called it too clever for its own good, but looking back, Scream 2 was decades ahead of its time. Today, nearly every major horror franchise, from Halloween to Saw to The Conjuring, follows the same formula: meta-awareness, nostalgia, and reboots with reverence for the original. Wes Craven wasn't just making a sequel, he was dissecting the anatomy of Hollywood's obsession with repetition. Fact 5. While fans were still processing the shock of Scream 2's ending, writer Kevin Williamson was already thinking 3 moves ahead. He wrote Scream 2 with outlines for both Scream 3 and Scream 4 included in his notes. His vision was a full trilogy following Sidney Prescott's journey through fame, trauma, and legacy. He even planned that Scream 3 would take place in Hollywood, an idea that did eventually happen, though with heavy rewrites and less of Williamson's input. What's even more fascinating is that his early notes predicted the rise of true crime culture and media obsession years before it exploded. He wanted the sequels to explore how tragedy gets commodified by entertainment, a theme that feels eerily relevant today. Although the later films took creative detours, Williamson's fingerprints are still everywhere. Meta-commentary, satire, and the idea that horror never truly dies. It just finds a new stage. In many ways, Scream 2 wasn't just a sequel, it was the blueprint for an entire horror universe. Fact 6. Randy Meeks, played by Jamie Kennedy, was the fan-favorite movie geek who survived the first film, so when Scream 2 killed him off midway through, audiences were devastated. What's surprising is that his death wasn't always part of the plan. In early drafts, Randy survived again, acting as Sidney's continued source of horror wisdom. But Kevin Williamson decided that killing him would raise the emotional stakes and prove that no one is safe. Wes Craven struggled with the choice, worried fans would revolt. The scene was rewritten multiple times to give Randy's death maximum shock value in a bright public place in broad daylight, something horror rarely dared to do. Kennedy improvised several lines during filming, making Randy's last words sound heartbreakingly authentic. When the movie premiered, theater audiences reportedly screamed and cursed the screen. Williamson later said, "Randy had to die so that horror itself could feel dangerous again." Ironically, Randy's video appearance in Scream 3 would later immortalize him as the genre's eternal voice of reason, proving that in Scream, even death doesn't stop a true cinephile. Fact 7. David Arquette's character, Deputy Dewey Riley, famously walks with a limp throughout Scream 2, but that detail wasn't scripted. During the first film's finale, Dewey was stabbed and presumed dead, but because test audiences loved him, Wes Craven decided to bring him back. Arquette chose to give Dewey a limp and partially stiff arm to reflect his injuries from the original, but he exaggerated it so much that the crew thought he'd been seriously hurt. Craven loved the quirk and told him to keep it, saying it made Dewey look both heroic and awkward, like a cowboy who doesn't realize he's limping. The limp ended up becoming a defining character trait across the series, symbolizing Dewey's resilience and humanity. Arquette later revealed that fans often asked if he had a real disability, to which he replied, "Only when I'm fighting Ghostface." That accidental choice gave Dewey more depth than any script note ever could, turning him into the franchise's wounded heart, limping toward justice one chase scene at a time. Fact 8. Roger L. Jackson's chilling performance as the voice of Ghostface is now legendary, but during filming, even the cast didn't know who was speaking to them. Wes Craven insisted that Jackson perform live phone calls from a hidden room or a van on set so the actors' reactions would be completely genuine. Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and Sarah Michelle Gellar all confirmed in interviews that they were genuinely creeped out by the calls, especially since Jackson's voice never broke character. He would whisper eerie ad-libs, taunt the actors, and even change his tone mid-take to throw them off. Craven kept Jackson's identity secret for weeks, to the point where some of the cast thought the voice might be a crew member playing a prank. The result was pure authenticity. The fear you see on screen isn't acting, it's instinct. Jackson later said his goal was to make Ghostface sound intimate, like the killer was right behind you. That decision created one of horror's most chilling trademarks, a disembodied voice that could sound flirtatious one second and murderous the next. Fact 9. By 1997, Courtney Cox was one of TV's biggest stars thanks to Friends, but she didn't want to play another nice character. When she returned as reporter Gale Weathers, she told Wes Craven she wanted to make her even tougher, colder, and more manipulative, a woman so ambitious that audiences would love to hate her. Cox even pushed for a new wardrobe, bold suits, darker lipstick, and sharp, aggressive hairstyles to visually emphasize Gale's edge. Craven agreed, and together they reshaped her into one of horror's most complex characters, part heroine, part opportunist. During the press conference scene, Cox improvised several of Gale's snarkiest lines, including one that directly mocked tabloid journalism. Critics later praised Cox's performance for evolving Gale from a stereotype into a fully realized survivor. Her determination to control her own narrative, both on and off screen, mirrored the film's commentary on media exploitation. By Scream 2's finale, when Gale risks her life to save Sydney, she's earned redemption not by being perfect, but by being real. Cox proved that even in a slasher sequel, character growth can be as powerful as any jump scare. Fact 10. One of Scream 2's most underrated scenes is Sydney performing in a Greek tragedy at her college, surrounded by masks and chaos. It's not just artistic filler, it's symbolic. The play, Cassandra, is about a woman cursed to see the future but never be believed, mirroring Sydney's struggle to escape her past trauma while no one takes her seriously. Wes Craven deliberately staged the scene with wind machines, swirling robes, and echoing voices to blur the line between performance and paranoia. Neve Campbell said those scenes were some of her favorites because they reflected Sydney's internal conflict trapped in a role she never chose. The costumes, the masks, the haunting music, everything was designed to feel like a nightmare bleeding into real life. It's a rare moment of psychological depth in a slasher film, and proof that Craven wasn't just making horror, he was making art. Fact 11. Before Timothy Olyphant became a household name in shows like Justified and Deadwood, he was a struggling actor with a few small credits to his name. When he auditioned for Scream 2, the studio was hesitant. They wanted someone more recognizable to balance the star-heavy cast. But Wes Craven saw something magnetic in Olyphant's performance. His charm, mixed with a twitchy, manic edge, made him perfect for the role of Mickey, the film student obsessed with turning real murders into movie fame. Olyphant delivered his lines with such confidence that Craven reportedly said, "He's either a genius or completely unhinged, which is exactly what we need." Ironically, Olyphant's character is all about fame through violence, and the movie ended up making him famous. His unmasking scene is a masterclass in charisma and insanity, performed with a grin that's both terrifying and weirdly likable. Fact 12. Wes Craven's cameo was hidden in plain sight. Wes Craven loved sneaking himself into his movies, and Scream 2 was no exception. But unlike his janitor cameo in the first film, where he famously wore Freddy Krueger's sweater, his appearance in Scream 2 is so subtle most fans miss it. During the chaotic newsroom sequence where reporters swarm the campus after the killings, Craven can be briefly spotted as a background journalist holding a microphone and pretending to interview a bystander. He didn't tell anyone, not even the cast, and shot the bit during lunch, wearing a fake press badge labeled Wes K. It wasn't until years later that sharp-eyed fans discovered the Easter egg. Craven said he loved the idea of being the man behind the media frenzy, a meta nod to how his films critique the exploitation of violence by the press. It's classic Craven irony, the director who invented meta-horror literally standing among the vultures. Blink and you'll miss him, but once you spot it, you can't unsee it. Fact 13. The fictional film Stab, which dramatizes the Woodsboro murders from the first movie, became one of the most memorable aspects of Scream 2. What many don't realize is that Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson seriously discussed making Stab a real movie within a movie series. After audiences reacted so strongly to the concept, complete with fake trailers, cheesy acting, and exaggerated violence, Dimension Films considered releasing short Stab films as bonus content or even a TV special. They ultimately decided it might confuse audiences, but the idea lived on Stab and became an ongoing gag throughout the Scream franchise. What makes it brilliant is how it mirrored real Hollywood sensationalizing true crimes for profit. Craven used Stab to comment on the media's obsession with horror and violence, creating a satire inside a satire. Every time you watch those over-the-top Stab scenes, you're essentially watching Craven mock his own success. Fact 14. One thing that sets Scream 2 apart from other slashers is its killer soundtrack, a perfect blend of angst, irony, and 90s cool. Featuring tracks from Foo Fighters, Everclear, Collective Soul, and Dave Matthews Band, it perfectly captured the late 90s college vibe while still feeling darkly cinematic. Music supervisor Marco Beltrami, who composed the score, mixed classic horror cues with grunge and alternative rock, giving the movie an edge that appealed to both horror fans and MTV audiences. The song She Said by Collective Soul, played during the film's closing credits, became synonymous with post-horror melancholy. Interestingly, some songs were strategically placed to lighten tension before jump scares, a psychological trick Craven used to catch audiences off guard. The soundtrack was so popular it charted on Billboard and became a cult favorite among fans who grew up during the era. Listening to it today feels like stepping into a time capsule, one where killer chases, campus parties, and cassette players coexisted in perfect, blood-soaked harmony. Fact 15. By the time Scream 2 was filmed, Neve Campbell had already become a horror icon, but even she wasn't immune to fear. During the film's climactic final scene in the theater, where Sidney faces off against Ghostface and Mrs. Loomis, Campbell reportedly performed most of her own stunts. She insisted on crawling across unstable set pieces and dodging practical pyrotechnics for authenticity. At one point, a prop malfunction caused a piece of debris to fall dangerously close to her. Wes Craven stopped filming immediately, but Campbell asked to continue, saying, "If Sidney's scared, I should be scared too." The realism shows her trembling hands and shaky breathing aren't acting. Campbell later admitted that she channeled her own anxiety from fame and exhaustion into the performance, making Sidney's breakdown feel heartbreakingly human. Craven praised her dedication, calling her the emotional anchor of the entire franchise. That finale cemented Sidney Prescott as one of horror's most resilient heroines, not because she's fearless, but because she's terrified and fights anyway. Fact 16. When production on Scream 2 began, Dimension Films briefly considered redesigning the iconic Ghostface mask. Executives thought a sequel needed a fresh killer look to keep audiences guessing. Several new prototypes were tested, including metallic versions, warped skull designs, and one with LED-lit eyes. Wes Craven fought hard to keep the original mask, arguing it had already become a pop culture symbol. He believed changing it would destroy the film's continuity and tone. The studio eventually backed down, but a few of those alternate masks were built for test footage. One even appeared in early promotional stills before being scrapped. Craven later said, "Ghostface isn't just a killer. He's a brand. You don't rebrand fear." Ironically, the unused designs later resurfaced as knockoff Halloween costumes, confusing fans for years. Keeping the mask untouched preserved the franchise's identity and proved that sometimes the scariest image doesn't need an update, just a perfect scream behind it. Fact 17. The film's chilling opening with Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps unalived during a movie screening wasn't random. Kevin Williamson based it on his own experiences watching horror films in packed theaters where people would laugh, shout warnings, and mock the action. He imagined what would happen if something real happened in that chaos, if someone was killed while everyone thought it was just part of the show. Wes Craven leaned into that concept, shooting the scene with frenetic energy and sound design that blurred the line between entertainment and horror. Extras were instructed to cheer, scream, and throw popcorn, while the real violence unfolded unnoticed. The result was disturbingly a commentary on how desensitized audiences had become to on-screen death. Jada Pinkett later revealed that her blood-curdling final scream wasn't acting. She was genuinely shaken after the repeated takes. It was the perfect way to start the sequel. Shocking, self-aware, and unforgettable. Fact 18. Most of Scream 2 was shot on real college campuses, including Agnes Scott College in Georgia and UCLA, but the shoot didn't go smoothly. Local students and faculty protested the violent content and late-night filming schedule. Some residents complained about fake blood being sprayed on university property, while others objected to the film's portrayal of campus life. In one memorable incident, a group of students tried to interrupt filming by blasting loud music from dorm windows to ruin the audio recordings. Wes Craven reportedly laughed it off, saying, "At least they care about what we're doing." The protests ultimately forced the crew to move some scenes indoors or shoot guerrilla style at night. Ironically, the chaos only added to the authenticity. The movie feels like it's alive in a real college environment, with genuine noise, light, and tension. Craven later admitted he loved the energy, saying, "We didn't need to fake realism, we were living it." In true Scream fashion, even the set itself became part of the madness. Fact 19. The unforgettable opening of Scream 2, where Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps meet their fate during a packed movie screening, is one of horror's most shocking moments. But that scene was originally totally different. In the earliest drafts, the film was supposed to open with a college dorm murder instead of a theater. Wes Craven and writer Kevin Williamson changed it late in pre-production after visiting a real movie premiere and realizing how terrifying it would be if Ghostface struck in front of an audience. Craven said he wanted to make viewers feel unsafe, even in the place where they came to watch horror safely. Jada Pinkett Smith fought hard to make her death more realistic and emotionally brutal. She told Craven she didn't want to just die quietly, leading to the now iconic moment where she staggers in front of the screen, bleeding as the crowd cheers, thinking it's part of the show. Fact 20. When Scream 2 hit theaters in December 1997, just 1 year after the original, expectations were high and it still blew everyone away. It earned over $170 million worldwide, proving that lightning could strike twice for horror. Critics praised it for being smart, stylish, and self-aware without losing its scares. Fans embraced it as a rare sequel that respected the original while expanding its universe. But what's truly surprising is how deeply it influenced pop culture. It sparked countless imitators, from urban legend to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and cemented Ghostface as a horror icon alongside Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers. Its blend of satire, blood, and wit became the gold standard for modern slasher films. Even today, horror directors cite Scream 2 as a masterclass in balancing suspense with commentary. It wasn't just a sequel, it was a manifesto for the new age of meta-horror. Scream 2 isn't just a sequel, it's a genre-defining evolution that proved horror could be smart, funny, and terrifying all at once. Subscribe for more horror deep dives, cult classics, and behind-the-scenes secrets, and comment below. Which Scream 2 moment made you jump the most?